Yo, what is up, guys? We are back. Little holiday hiatus, I think is what I counted back to somebody. But we're back. We're back to do. I know we missed a pretty big slate yesterday, but we're gonna get back to doing these consistently. And tonight, just a one-game slate. But what better game than our Detroit Pistons versus the Mavs? Couple key injuries. Obviously, no Cade Cunningham for the Pistons. He's going to be out for a significant amount of time. Jaden Ivey is questionable. I think he's an actual legit game time decision with the knee injury. So it's probably going to be a see how he's feel thing. That's definitely something to monitor. But we have some lines for these Pistons guys. On the Mavs side, I don't anticipate Kemba plays. I know I think he's gotten his first couple practices. We'll see, but obviously not a huge impact. He's not going to come out here and play. He's playing backup point guard, so he's not going to come out here and just play 25 minutes or something. So not a huge impact. I think Christian Wood is the bigger impact. He had an illness, and these illness things are really hard to predict from an injury perspective on if players are going to play, because sometimes it's not even a game. They were just questionable with an illness and they're going to give it a go. And sometimes it's, hey, this guy's out for a couple games, like we've seen with some players. So we'll see, but we've got lines for a decent amount of guys. So we'll take a look at the game here on Underdog. Only an 8-point spread. I know I say only. It's a decent spread, but 221.5 total. I think this is a game that obviously I don't know if it's a lock to stay close, but I do think that I think the Pistons could keep this one close. A lot of those secondary guys. This lineup looks pretty ugly, but no, Killian. I mean, if Ivy plays tonight, Killian's been playing pretty well. Even some of the secondary guys. Kojo's been okay in some of these games. No, not okay. He at least he's not starting. We can put that out there. But yeah, so 8-point spread, decent. We'll take a look at the game here. We'll just let me refresh here, see if we've got any updates. But we've got some of these lines even without Christian Wood confirmation and Jaden Ivey confirmation.
I was really surprised, and I checked the lines before we went live just to make sure, because it would be kind of funny if there's one game we go live and there's no lines, right? All right, have a good day, Woody.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously only game of the slate tonight, just a one game slate. So we're not going to spend an hour talking about the few Pistons and Mavs players we have, but we'll take some time to look at these. So let us know in the chat if there's any specific lines you want us to take a look at. But we'll probably just go through line by line here. We've got Din at 16.5. You got Marvin Bagley at 12.5.
Sometimes in these games I look at a player that's just been trending in a good direction, and I go straight to one of their stats or one of their lines, and really hoping they just have something on it, and they don't here. But they have a line for killing assists at 5.5 on a book. It's not an Underdog. It will be on Underdog. If it's anywhere near that 5.5, I love the over. If it's 6 flat, I still like the over. It's very safe. He has hit this line, and I think I could count all this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of the last 11 games. And those 3 misses in the last 11 games were games where he played 28, 24, and 17 minutes versus the 30-minute games that he's been seeing. So very, very, very good success rate at this line, especially at 5.5, which it shouldn't be. It'll probably be 6 flat or 6.5 on Underdog.
It could be, yeah.
6 flat, I still like for Killian.
Yeah, I think if you just kind of, you've kind of seen this stretch. I know some of these games have been without Ivy, but I still think Killian still will play traditional point, right? We've seen over the past 5, a couple of these games with Ivy, he's been averaging 7 assists on 10 potential. So even if it's a little inflated, he's playing pretty well. He's a pretty solid assist guy. I think that's a good line for him. I do like that.
Yep. And then obviously Luka, points line. It's a really good line. I don't know if they're factoring in a blowout potential here, but 31.5 against this Pistons team, that is just, with everybody healthy, they're not the greatest against the guards. But especially without Cade, maybe not Ivy. Killian, sure, he's a respectable defender, but it's Luka. They've still been giving up points to the point guard position, even with Killian on someone.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Luka. He's had 30 plus in every game he's ever played against the Pistons except for one. And so now you come into Detroit against a very battered Pistons team. So I understand the blowout potential. If you're on a book that has first half lines, I would smash probably the first half line for Luca. Just in general, he's good at that. And then in this
Yeah.
case, for the blowout potential. But I like this points line that we're seeing already for him.
Yeah, just with what Luka's been doing, obviously, like anytime you look at a Luka line, that's like right around 30 with how much he's shooting, and he's shooting pretty well too. Yeah, maybe not from three as much, but I mean, still across the floor, he's been really good. And obviously the Pistons too. We tend to look through things with teal colored glasses for the Pistons when we talk about some of their defenders and abilities. But yeah, I mean, especially with no Cade, I think we've seen some of these games with Luka and Cade. Cade matches up with Luka better than the other defenders that will guard Luka tonight. Yep, size wise and length for sure. So yeah, I think, and it's Luka still. So like even with that, it's just Luka right. Magic. So yeah, I think this is, you look at the line, 8-point spread, you're looking at right around a 222 total. I think Luka could easily be at this line, even if it does get away a little bit in the fourth. But this Pistons seems like, yes, we've gotten blown out in some of these games, but I don't know. I think I'm not like terrified of this Mavs team, overall, for like the Pistons to not be able to keep it respectable, right?
Yep.
Would you give me your blowout percentage odds?
Give me the definition of a blowout, like a double-digit win.
No. Let's do blowout from the perspective of Luka is not playing, like his minutes are severely impacted in the fourth. Is how I would quantify a blowout for player prop perspective.
I would say like 25%.
Okay, yeah.
Because I think also Luka is a kind of guy that even when they are blowing him out, he'll still probably just go out there and play. Like it's like Luka and Giannis are probably those kind of guys, and then you have like the LeBrons, the Tatums, whatever, different guys that would really sit. But I think what we've seen out of Luka in Dallas, he doesn't usually sit that early.
Yeah, unless it's like really bad.
Yeah, really bad.
Yeah, I agree.
I have the first under that I kind of want to hit tonight.
All right, let's hear it.
Isaiah Stewart under 10.5 points, -137 on underdog. It's very good on. Yeah,
Curry Stew.
Yeah, I really like this line. I think the minutes are going to be inconsistent with Bagley and him back and Duren. These minutes are going to be inconsistent, and the Mavericks can match up really well against the Pistons and the bigs. Even with Christian Wood possibly being out, they've got very solid starters in Powell and Kleber that have been known as tough defenders for undersized bigs. And Stewart's an undersized big. I just think he has a lot of trouble. He can stretch the floor a little bit, but 10.5 is just way too high for me. He hits this line like maybe 50% of the time in the last month or two. And then we have a committee of bigs now as well, blowout potential as well. I just don't like him getting 11 points in this game at all.
Yeah, too. And I think I don't want to like predict that we're going to see Jalen Duren play significant minutes consistently, but I am a believer that he will be a more solidified part of the rotation even with Bagley back. So I totally agree with you with Bagley, Stu, and Duren. I'm not confident that Stu is going to be this like 28-30 minute guy. We've seen some pretty inconsistent mini games from him already this season.
Right.
And two, I mean, you look at this last game, right? I think people will point to like, first game back against the Knicks, like, he shot a ton, 19 points. I mean, 5 for 9 from 3. He's really not going to shoot that volume. And this season, like, I'm a big Stu 3-point believer, but it's more from a Pistons fan. He's stretching the floor a little bit more. Like, this is not, don't look at these like last few games from Stu and be like, this he's going to give you 2-3 threes a night. Like, Stu's he's still not going to be a high volume guy.
That matchup with Mitchell Robinson down low poised much better for him to stretch the floor. With the Mavericks here, you don't really need to stretch the floor against the undersized big and Powell. DFS, if he's going to be the 4 against Stewart, can absolutely come out to the perimeter and guard Stewart. And they can throw a bunch of different guys like Powell or Kleber at him as well. If Wood plays, McGee probably won't play a lot of minutes, but Stewart 5 for 9 from 3, and he covered what this line would be right now, covered by 8 points. Yeah, 8 points is a lot for a big, right?
Yeah.
But 5 for 9 from 3, and it's not like this. Do you understand what I'm saying? He had the best 3-point game of his career, and he had 19 points. So it's like I don't see him having more than two this game or having even a high volume anyway. I think he has less than 10 shots, two or less threes, and so his work's gonna be cut off for him big time to get 11. So I really like the under on Stewart
Yeah.
points. And I think this is a long time coming that we, really hard for an under on our Pistons guys.
Dang.
Like, and say that they're gonna struggle. As much as
And
it pains me.
who would have thought it would be paired with a Killian over? Now that's
Yeah,
something
that's
right
true.
there.
That's right. This is Wembanyama season. Anything can happen.
Right. No, I agree. I think too. You can look back to. I mean, I have this pulled up. Isaiah Stewart last season without Cade. We saw a stretch of games last season. Where Cade was out for times, and I mean he averaged 8 points a game, and he played around the minutes that I'd expect from him in this game. Right. In that stretch, he averaged like 25 minutes. I could easily see him being right around there in this game as well. And two, I think like you eliminate Cade from the equation. I know people tend to be like, oh, you took away a high usage shooter guy. But I mean, if you just look at who else is going to be on the floor with him, almost everyone across the board should have higher volume shooting than Stu. Even guys like, Cade, obviously Jaden Ivey, even Bagley, obviously Bogdanovich, like Sadiq, all these guys should shoot more than Stu comfortably. So it's really hard for him to be able to cover a line that's kind of already difficult for him to cover in a lot of these games.
Yeah. Is there anybody here that's like really popping up for you, like a bogey maybe? As far as we like. I mean, I think we like going to bogey here in these games, right? Where it's like, who's gonna give us points? Like, who's gonna make this team hit 90-point total?
Right. No, yeah, it is tough. I do wish. I think. Only saw 19 minutes from Bogey in that Knicks game. I wish we've. I guess the volume hasn't been bad in the stretch without Cade. I think you can kind of point to it being pretty consistent. He's been right around here. I don't dislike it. I think it's a pretty good line for a Cade-less team, especially if there's the chance there's no Ivy, because from an overall shooting usage percentage, those two guys are pretty high from this Pistons team. If you just look at up until this point in the season, who consistently has been putting up decent volume, it's been Cade and Ivy. Obviously Bogey as well, but that's what I'm talking about in reference to. So
yeah.
I do like that line. I don't think it's like one of my favorites, but I think from a over points perspective, it might be my favorite Pistons line. I really want to like Bagley.
I think it should be, right?
I really want to like Bagley at 12 and a half. Yeah.
Yeah, 12 and a half is a good line. Is there a reason you don't like Bagley? Is it the same kind of thing where it's like he's coming up against the tougher matchup, or?
I don't even think it's that. I think it's just like my opinions on Bagley overall. But I think the line is low enough that I feel okay about it. He's covered this in the past 5, I think. This 12 and a half line. And yeah, I think he's a guy who, I mean, the volume hasn't been crazy, but compared to like what I expect from Isaiah Stewart, just like I look at the box score at the end of the game, I just feel better about Bagley at that 12 and a half line than Stu at 10 and a half pretty considerably. Yeah. Man, I wish Sadiq was shooting better.
I know he's been very, very bad.
This 14 and a half line should be a smash with no Cade and potentially no Ivy. It is just so sad that I just can't do it. It's just been really bad. I know, like we know he's a better shooter than he's been, but it's one of those things where when you're taking these player props, like I can't. Obviously, it's a streaky thing, but I can't like divorce myself from reality. He's just not shooting well. So I'm not going to say, oh, this is the game he's going to put it together, and but it is a good line. It just sucks that it should be such a smash, man.
Yeah.
In this spot.
Yeah, there's no reason to. It's like one of those things where it's like there's no reason to think like, oh, he's due. Like,
right.
The funny. Like, it's just he's been shooting bad, and so there's no reason to hop on and over on this until like he actually starts trending in the right direction. So,
yeah.
Matchup wise, it might be decent, but it's like doesn't matter the matchup. He's just not hitting the shots.
Right, and it's the matchup too, and it's the matchup tied with just like what a good spot. Like these games he's had these games right with no Cade, no Ivy over the stretch. Yeah, it's tough. But obviously what was it the last time? Was that game also a lone game where he dropped that 50 bomb last season?
It was again. I mean, there's no. I don't think there's no Bagley. I think it's before Bagley came.
Nah, I mean we don't. This is just it was a cute little thought about it. Just because
No, I do think it was though.
like the only game of the night. I could be wrong.
Only game of the
Um,
night. Oh, like that. I thought you meant like no Cade. Like only
no,
player on
yeah,
the
it was
team.
no Cade. Yeah, that one
Oh,
was a no
okay.
Cade game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, I'm looking at assists here. You've got Luka at 9 flats. I still think Killian at that 5.5 line is probably my favorite. Din at 4.5. I think Killian's my favorite. Do you like Luka at 9 flat, or would you just go points at that line?
I would probably just go points.
Yeah.
Points line is just too juicy.
Yeah,
I could go. I could be convinced PRA though.
Luka. I mean, Luka probably is. He has such a good like, dude. Just a guy with Luka's usage against this Pistons team. Like
Yeah.
he's probably just gonna hit everything.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, with the assist being at 9 flat, what's his rebounds at? Probably also 9
I'll
flat
pull
or
that
8
up.
flat. Yeah, 8.5. Really good value on that actually.
Yeah.
I don't hate that. I kind of like
I
his
really.
PRA.
Yeah, I don't hate the rebound line either. I mean, you talk about this Pistons team, not a not a very like big team. This feels
No.
like a game Luka could easily cover this. Yeah, what was PRA? I'll pull that up real quick. Actually, I'm gonna peek at some of
Oh,
these
he's
other rebound
at
lines.
9-18. It's probably like 48.5, maybe 49. I'm not looking at that. I'm just
Bagley's.
adding up those lines in my head.
No,
48
you're
and a
good.
half, 49.
I'll pull it up now.
Yeah, 49.5 on underdog.
Um,
I like it. I think I like the rebound upside way more than the assist upside where the line's at. Um,
yeah,
so I would just go straight up rebounds or points. Because again, we talk about this all the time, right? The PRA, the points is just such a heavy carry. So you have to have like a higher ceiling on that, which Luca is a kind of guy where you could do that, right? He's got, the points are the floor of points is so high to help
yeah,
carry this PRA, and then the upside in every category is so good, right? So that's why Luca is such a good PRA guy. So I don't hate going that. Um, I think this stat though, points I think he can cover in like 3 quarters or like 3.5 quarters. PRA is like a full game kind of deal, right?
yeah,
Because you need the peripherals, you need every little thing, you need that, you need those last 4 minutes for a couple extra rebounds, and extra assists, and extra bucket, because those really matter, right?
yeah.
So blowouts are like
Per minute
definitely
is
I would
tough on
stay
those.
away for. Yeah, I would definitely stay away from PRA in blowout game potentials like that.
Yeah, too. And I think like PRA is tough too, especially when you consider that. Just because if you look at these stretches of Luka games, the games that he's not covering his high points line but covering PRA, it's not super common. Like it definitely has happened where he's been like right on the
Right.
edge. But if you look at some of these games, I mean he's had it's so funny because you point to some of these where he has like 13 boards and 10 assists, 42 points.
Yeah.
Like he hasn't had many covering
Yeah.
without covering. And the games that he's missed, he hasn't covered because, but once again, those are like horrible Luca games, right? Where he's got like 24 points. That's an awful Luca game,
Yeah. I can't
efficiency
imagine
wise.
being in the NBA and only scoring 24. Could never be me.
Right. But
Yeah,
it's
he
kind of
definitely like
interesting. He's
that.
been, I tweeted this out the other day. He's not been shooting great from three, not like awful, but he's been like 31% from three, but scoring at just such a crazy rate. He's shooting like 50% from the field with that lower 3 point percentage. He's not shooting a ton of threes, but that's kind of been a Luka thing over the past year. He shouldn't have to tonight either. All right.
Yeah.
We can look at made threes real quick. I don't know if any of these like rebound or PRA lines jumped out to me significantly. I'm
I
only
don't know. Look it
seeing
up.
Luca actually at 2.5.
For threes?
Yeah.
Oh, an underdog. I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2.5 is whatever. Fine. I like the other stuff way more.
Yeah.
Hardaway's interesting. I know it's not an underdog yet, but just in case it is later. Hardaway's interesting, but he's another guy that's very, very streaky. Um,
Yeah. Where's
let's do
my
that by
Bullock
5.
3 point line? Just the only thing he'll shoot. Um, yeah.
Yeah, nothing there. Blocks and steals. Killian is interesting at 1.5 total blocks and steals.
Yeah. Just with, I mean, when you're on the floor with a guy like Luca, who's gonna turn the ball over a decent amount.
Yep. Yep.
but obviously not seeing those yet.
No. I mean, I to be honest, for one game, I've got like four things I actually really like, which is pretty impressive to me.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
do you want to? So let's just talk. We'll do a little behind the scenes, in front of the scenes here. Do you want to do a? Because I do think there's like 3 or 4 plays that I like probably personally will play tonight. But do
same,
you want to pinpoint it down to
like two,
one, two, one from each side, maybe just for like logistical
right? Yeah,
underdog player prop points?
yeah. I think on the Dallas side, for me, it's either Luka points or rebounds. Um, I really
Yeah.
like the points, but like I'm starting to fall in love with the rebounds more.
Yeah, it's really interesting because we talked about like the rebounds, and you can all you want to talk about like, oh, there's a blowout, which one do you like more? But I don't know if you can really even do that. I think that was more of a PRA thing than a rebounding thing. um I do like both of them. The
Yeah,
juice is on the rebounds.
I know Pistons are actually pretty decent against limiting rebounds to point guards, but that's
Yeah,
with Cade
Luca.
probably
And
also.
Luca's not a he's
Yeah,
a
it's Luka's an
he's a
outlier,
point
right? So,
forward.
yeah, he's an outlier, but also Cade is
Yeah, for sure.
a big part chunk of that statistic probably too. Um, yeah, I love them both. So whatever one you feel more comfortable with. Um, I
I
think
do like them both.
in a game that especially like against the Pistons in this matchup where we probably won't score as many points. I think I like the rebound.
Yeah,
8 and a
this
half.
Pistons team.
Ah,
So my only yeah.
hey, if you have a hesitation with that, let's go points then.
No. I'm not even like really hesitating. I'm just like kind of talking out loud of this like Detroit team with no Cade.
Bang.
A Detroit team with no Cade, like it's not a massive pace up spot for a really slow Mavs team. I don't know if that like gives you like a super harsh
I mean,
lean
the
either
Mavs, I think, are
way.
the slowest pace team in the league
Oh
right now.
yeah, no, but in terms of like in reference to other teams, but I think they're both good. I don't even think I'm like leaning one way and trying to avoid playing the other. Um, yeah, I mean maybe it's just
I
my
I'm okay with one.
51% is on rebounds.
Dang
Uh,
it.
but what was your 51% on points?
Yeah, I was gonna go points just because like I have this weird feeling that the Pistons are gonna be annoyingly competitive in this game.
Okay, yeah,
Like this feels like a sleeper game where it's like, you're like, okay, we're gonna get blown out, and all of a sudden you look at it in the third quarter, it's like, oh, we're down by two. I don't know. It just feels like one of those weird games in Detroit. Um,
yeah. I think yeah. I don't know if I'm getting too cute and like thinking about it, but like defensive matchup assignment wise for
Killian.
Luca, he probably
I mean, he definitely has Killian on him.
no. I know. I'm talking about for Luca playing defense, like the way the Mavs are going to match
Oh,
up to the Pistons.
okay. He probably sleeps on Killian.
Right, which
Eh,
Killian's and I don't know if that's even like for certain, just because I think it wouldn't surprise me either way, right? I think it gets a little funkier if Ivy plays with like what they're gonna do, because I don't think you put Luca on Ivy.
no, God, no.
Right.
No.
So that would be my thought of he's probably on kill if Ivy plays in that scenario for sure. But it might get funky if he doesn't. My only thought was that Killian's not a super high volume shooter. Like he's just not going to be like a 15 plus shot guy, even in these like really good usage opportunities. Um,
I
this is
think
what
he's
this is what we do. We psychoanalyze 2 plays that we are probably just both going to hit because we want to pick the one that we think is going to hit more. Um,
I think he's good points.
yeah, I'm cool with that.
I'm going points personally tonight. So we got Luka points, and then the other three I like are on the Pistons side.
Yeah.
So I'll give you the three that I like the most. Actually, there's four, but I'll give you all four, F it, and then you just tell me.
All right.
Bagley over 12.5 points, and you said you were scared about that one.
No, I like
Bogdanovich
it.
over 18.5 points. Killian was the fourth one. We don't have a line for it, but it'd be
Right.
probably 6 assists, but that's kind of moot. So then the third one would be Stewart under 10.5 points.
Yeah.
I kind of want to put my balls on the table and go under on Stu, and then just wear that L if it heaven forbid it happens.
Do you want to play 3, 2 on the Piston side and under and an over?
Yeah, I am probably playing four personally. I'll play the under on Stu. I'm gonna play the Luca over points, and I probably might play both Bagley and Bogey over points.
Gotcha. What's your favorite? Because I'm down. I like both of those, but I'm down to go with everyone you feel better about.
Yeah. Um, do you have a favorite? I'm thinking
Yeah, my slight.
probably Bogey is my favorite.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there was something to be said about like, oh, if you're doing Stu under, you like Bagley over, but I feel better about Bogey being close volume from a volume perspective.
I like the matchup better too. I think there's a weird kind of scenario here where I think that he has Hardaway on. Because I think if Hardaway's not on him, DFS would be on Bogey. That means that Hardaway's on Stu. Like, no,
Right. That yeah.
right?
That wouldn't happen.
So Hardaway being on him, Hardaway's not the greatest defender. He's quick, but it's like you don't have to be quick to guard a guy that's going to be pitching a 10 in the corner. Um, so I like, yeah,
Yeah,
I like those three.
I like those. All right. Um, let's do this really
Mhm.
quick. If you could only play one, would it be Luca? I'm just asking you a stupid question while I set up the screen.
No, it's gonna be a Stu because I plant my flag and I stay by it.
I like that. I like that. All right, cool. So here we've
Can't wait to
got
be just horribly wrong on that.
no,
He's got like career high 25. It's like
dominance from the 3-point line for Isaiah Stewart as
I
Luca
think coming out
struggles.
party. Yeah, as Luca goes 0 for 20. How is that possible? But the
Uh,
Mavs win.
so we're actually going with the triple points. We got Luca over 31.5,
Yeah.
Stu under 10.5, and Bogey over 18.5. I know we're big. You know, when you're picking out a game script, I know people like to do that with player prop stuff. So as a quick facade, before I get into what I was about to say, when we give out these plays, we like to just give out pretty much everything we like. You know, we're not giving these out as a 3-pick, go and lock this in. We really like talking about these plays, and then at the end, it's kind of cute and nice to put together 3 that we like, or 4 or 5 or whatever, depending on how big the slate is. So, with that being said, I don't think the game flow or the game itself is going to massively impact Isaiah Stewart, right? I think we both think that line is pretty high for what we expect from him in this game overall. From a minutes perspective, I know he had a big game last game, but he's just not going to shoot that volume from 3 and make that percentage from 3. That's a two-parter there. But yeah, like these 3.
Yeah, I feel really good about these actually.
Hell yeah. All right. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Hopefully, we'll see you in the next one. Looking forward to continue to do these consistently. Peace out.